So I want to thank everybody for being here. And, I want to say, I presented at lots of conferences, but this is my first virtual conference. So I have to say it's a lot less nerve-wracking because I can't see my audience really looking up at me, but I hope I'm able to give just a good of presentation for everybody and everybody learns a lot. So today I'm going to be going over ABA parent coaching and just talk about kind of like the way we do it at HedgeHog and health and kind of what it looks like and what anybody could expect that would be going through our program. So a little bit about myself kind of going forward here is that I was the oldest sibling in my family, and I also grew up with other kids in my home because my mom had a daycare growing up, and I didn't realize it at that time, but that was actually giving me some early training on being part of another child's life. And it was cool to see in retrospect now the things that are happening in my life that kind of prepared me for where I am in today. So I went to WMU, or Western Michigan University, and I was originally going into school for molecular biology, and because I am a big science guy, and because it really became clear to me in middle school that I just love science. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I was in AP physics and AP biology and AP chemistry and calculus. And I was really preparing myself for a life in science and as I went into college. And so at WMU, while I was there, I was going into molecular biology, like I said, and I had to take a practicum. And I saw this Croydon Avenue School practicum, and it was working with kids and that were on the autism spectrum. And so I was like, well, I've been working with kids my whole life, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this is all about. And so I ended up doing that, and I really didn't know that taking this practicum would end up kind of changing the direction of my life. Because while I was there, I got to see a kid that I work with learn to take his first words in a matter of 3 months of working with the kid. And it was really amazing to see, wow, like this application of science in this field really produces amazing results. And so I really got hooked at that point in time. So then I went to Florida Institute of Technology for my master's program. And while I was there, I was doing home-based treatment with a family of 6, and two of which were on the spectrum. So I got to work with kind of like the whole family there and after school every day, and providing some direct treatment and parent training at that point in time while I was doing that. And then when I entered the doctorate program at Florida Institute of Technology, they opened a center on campus there. And when I was there, I got to start supervising other BCBAs and conducting research and working in a functional analysis lab. While I was at the functional analysis lab, I quickly realized that the FA methods that were used back then were, I really wasn't fond of them, but it was what the field was using at that time. When I graduated, my first job out of college was at Firefly Autism out in Colorado, and the model out there was a parent coaching or parent training model only. So I got to learn a lot about helping parents, use ABA principles and how to start work and how to work with their kids through that. And then I moved back to Michigan in 2012, and I started Autism Centers of Michigan right at the point when the autism insurance mandate had passed in Michigan. So it was kind of a cool timing that happened to be where I could come back here and start this program right when there's a huge influx of need, and also insurance was providing the coverage for it. So that was awesome as well. So a little bit about my life is, so I'm married and I'm raising 6 kids in the home. So I am a parent basically most of the day, and especially now with COVID and working from home more often and the kids being at school or being at home, it's been a big change for me. And so I also love serving the autism community still. And during that time, so back in 2018, I sold Autism Centers of Michigan to Acorn Health, and I took some time to really focus on my family and also consulted with some center-based startups outside of Michigan because my non-compete was only in Michigan. And it was during that time that I started thinking about the role of parent training in autism services and how important the parent really is in the life of our children. So I knew that parents were underserved in the ABA programs for a myriad of reasons. And I really wanted to change that, because I even saw back at Autism Centers of Michigan, like that, you know, we had a great parent training platform, and we had a great protocol. We had a great program for it. But in general, it wasn't the emphasis of what we did, and wasn't really the focus of what we were doing. It was kind of like, if the parents wanted it, we would give it, we'd deliver it, but we weren't pushing for it. And like I said, during this time when I had a little break from work, I really saw that, like, I really think that parents are the pivotal in the people within they have the biggest connection. They have the most time with their kids. There's so many reasons why I think parent coaching and parent training is so important in this, and in the treatment side, or the reaching outcomes that we're looking for. So I was introduced to the Hoglet, which is the world's first fidget mouse, and our CEO of HedgeHog Health, Parker Lynch, in June of 2020. So some good things did come out of 2020. And I loved what Parker was trying to do with the Hoglet mouse, and also his vision for increasing educational opportunities for kids on the spectrum, basically through the world's first fidget mouse, the Hoglet. And so it was really cool to see what he wanted to do. And after meeting with the whole HedgeHog team, I knew that it was something that I really wanted to be part of. And they also understood my desire to create a parent coaching program within ABA service delivery, and focus on that side of service delivery. And now kind of like, to know what something is, sometimes it's better to hear about what it's not. So as we go into as I start describing what our parent coaching is, I want to talk a little bit about what our parent coaching actually is not. So our parent coaching is not tech training, you know. So as a parent of 6 kids, and knowing how that would feel, we are not trying to make a tech out of a parent. We're not trying to teach a parent to do what techs do. They have their own role within the service delivery model, and we will work with local companies and work with local providers. We do work with local providers to help parents access direct services, or if needed, and also ones that already are, we collaborate with them. So another thing that our parent coaching is not DTT, or discrete trial teaching. We're not trying to, like I said, we're not trying to make the parents sit down and do mass trials with their kids to get them to learn the things that the goals that we're trying to reach. And it's also not an educational supplement. The schools have their own part in this, and I think they're doing all the best they can. And a lot of times they're actually getting better and better as funding comes in to help them provide more and more support. So that's kind of what we're not. We're not training techs as parents as techs. We're not teaching them how to do discrete trial training, and we're not an educational supplement. But what we are is, what it is really is a partnership with a professional. So a parent partnership with a professional to reach socially significant outcomes in homes and the community, and for parents with children on the autism spectrum. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're, like I said, we are for the parent, and we are focusing on the parent at all times when we provide what we're doing. So, like, I always like to say, like, we are for the parent, because I believe that the parent is where it's at. So we provide outcomes that lead to more independence, friends, and fun. So that's kind of what our goals are. Some of our overarching goals is that we want independence, friends, fun. We want this to be a really motivating scenario for everybody involved. I think the key, like, motivation is key to sustainability. And so by creating more independence, friends, and fun, we create motivation around everything we're doing within our parent coaching platform and program. So our professionals are using evidence-based practices, and they're analyzing progress weekly. So I think that's one thing that's really important, is that we're not just analyzing performance, we're actually analyzing progress, because time is such a valuable resource for everybody involved. And so by looking at progress, we can see that they're making performance gains in a timely fashion, because I'm not trying to make a joke out of this, but like if our kids are still identifying emotions based on 2D pictures of smiley faces when they turn 18, I really believe that we kind of missed the goal of effective education. And nowadays with technology and the way it is now, way we can actually use technology to analyze progress on a daily to weekly basis, we should be able to make the changes in programming that allow us to efficiently help kids learn the skills to be independent, to make friends, and have lots of fun while we're doing it. So let's get on track together and using telehealth ABA parent coaching. And that's one thing that's come out of this whole thing, is that insurance companies now are allowing telehealth to be delivered. And we can, work with insurance companies to provide telehealth-based services on a much larger and much more intense level now. And I really don't see that going away, because there's so many benefits from it. So it all starts with an interview between the parents and our behavior analysts. And during this parent-informed interview, we're gathering information on the meltdowns or problem behavior, the triggers, and the maintaining variables. And this interview is something that occurs up front, and it's the very beginning of the whole program. So during the interview, we're trying to learn about the child's background, the demographics, their play skills, their language abilities, and just talking through that with a parent, because that's what it's all about. Is about just talking through and everybody kind of being on the same page and understanding how to take the first step forward. So we're also getting information, like I said, we're defining the meltdowns, we're identifying the triggers, and we're discovering motivation. So we really want to learn about your specific situation, because everybody's situation is different. Every kid is different, and how we work with each kid and each family is different. And so we really want to take the time to talk through this and understand how everybody is unique, and how we can make sure the programs we're going to run, or the learning activities we're going to use, are unique to everybody's situation as well. So when I talk about operational definitions of meltdowns, it's more about talking about the meltdown in a way that allows for us to all agree basically when a meltdown is occurring or when it's not occurring. So everybody can just be on the same page. And also with the precursors or triggers to meltdowns or problem behavior, and also precautions, because safety really is, for our kids, is really the most important thing. So we always want to make sure we have all the precautions in place around it, so that the goal is for, like I said, independence, fun, friends. That's our goal. So we don't want to get into a place where we're causing problem behavior or causing more issues than there has to be. So knowing the triggers is very important, because we are also able to use these times to teach more pro-social communication. And so knowing where the triggers are, when the triggers are, and basically what the specifics around the triggers now helps us create the opportunities in the future. So when we're teaching the more pro-social behaviors, that we can use these times to really teach them the steps for communicating and further repertoires. So with motivation, we really want to know why these meltdowns are even happening. And that's a question I kind of hear a lot, is like, why is this even happening? And what typically happens during and after meltdowns often provides us with the answer. And so we want to know kind of what's happening during the meltdown and what's happening typically happens after the meltdown. And we kind of, like I said, it's all about a discussion around it, so that everybody can be on the same page. The next step after the interview is running a practical functional analysis, or interview-informed synthesized contingency analysis. And so that is a long name for this. So a lot of times it's called as a ISCA for short. So the next part is we run an ISCA. So this type of evaluation It was developed by Dr. Greg Hanley, who was also a student of Brian Awada, and Brian Awada is the founder of functional analysis. Dr. Hanley was able to take the old way, which I already said that I was really not too keen on, and create a new way that I believe is safer and also more dignified for everyone involved. So in this way, we have a two condition comparison of the rates of problem behavior and functional communication. So we're just two conditions, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those now. So there's two conditions. One, where meltdowns do not occur at all, and that's called the highly reinforcing environment, or the HRE. So in that condition, like I said, we want no demands. We want access to all the relevant reinforcers. We want to create a situation where there's no chance that our child's gonna melt down or have any type of problem behavior. The other condition is the evocative condition, or the EO, and in this condition, there's a progression to the triggers identified in an interview. So we slowly, step by step, slowly start providing, either presenting demands or removing relevant reinforcers, like slowly, because like I said, the goal of I'm going to get to the next slide, but the goal of this is that we are not trying to cause problem behavior, or we don't want that. The goal is that we can move right back into the highly reinforcing environment and produce an environment where the kids are calm and engaged. And so that's the environment we want to be in. And so that's the kind of the goal. And so, like I said, during the highly reinforcing environment or condition, we're providing all suspected reinforcers non-contingently. So they have free access to everything. And so during this condition, we actually don't start collecting data until the child's relaxed, happy, engaged for about 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes of engagement and happy and calm, then we start the EO condition, where we move one step at a time closer and closer to the triggers for meltdowns. And like I said, the goal is not to have a meltdown. That's not our goal. Like in the Iwata functional analysis stuff, it was all about producing higher rates of problem behavior in one condition compared to other condition. And that often led to mixed results or unconclusive results. But in this, we're just trying to see if we can get into like the precursors, or like the to a meltdown. So like even like whining, or if the meltdown even begins, we want to immediately move them back into the highly reinforcing environment. And so it's not about it's not trying to probe them. We're not trying to cause problem behavior or cause meltdowns. We're trying to slowly progress it. And as soon as we see a hint, that we move them back into the other condition where they can be happy and content. So like I said, we immediately provide the HRE condition following precursors or the beginning of a meltdown. And then we remain in that condition until they're calm and happy and then about 30 seconds to a minute later, we'd start progressing the EO condition again. So once we've done this 3 to 5 times, that means we're successfully able to demonstrate that we can turn it on and off. And once we can demonstrate that, that's the kind of data that insurance companies like to see. That's the kind of data that we like to see, because now we know we can create a treatment package from that's going to be very, very successful and work very, very quickly, because our goal is always, like I said, independence, friends, fun. We don't want to spend a lot of time with dealing or working with problem behavior, because we have ways to replace that and really move past it and into skills-based treatment. So, I was wondering if there are any questions regarding the practical functional analysis or the ISCA part of the programming.
Yeah, Jordan, we did have a couple questions that came in. One is, please define meltdown. I'm not sure what's happening with my child. Is it a meltdown or a tantrum?
So we've gotten lots of feedback on this, and sometimes it's more like, so it's more about just defining what's happening, whether we classify it as a tantrum or a meltdown, or to me, personally, I believe that's kind of more semantics. It's more about what's actually happening that's maybe interfering with the child being able to be happy, be content, be independent, make friends, have fun. Like, so what's interrupting that process? And we can call that a meltdown. We can call it a tantrum. We can call it problem behavior. But specifically, it's more about, I like to call it what it is. And if it's throwing things, if it's falling to the ground and crying and screaming, if it's some kind of aggression or self-injury, whatever it is, I like to call it what it is, and then realize that we can replace it with more functional pro-social behaviors so that our kids can, like I said, be more independent, make friends, have fun. That's kind of the goal. So I hope I answered your question, in that it's not really more about the label. It's more about just identifying what's happening and trying to replace that with more pro-social behavior.
And then Jordan, you might, be going over this at the end. So if you want to leave it to the end, that's fine. But someone had just asked how, can parents access the program and types of insurances and things that are accepted.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So at the end, I'll open up the questions again, and I can maybe get into that a little more about our company side of things. But yeah, so it just about right now, I would just say, if you go to our website, you can get a hold of us.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So now we're going to move into the skills-based treatment. So we've conducted the interview. We've done the ISCA. So now we know the functional part of what's going on. And once we have the interview and the ISCA done, now we're able to create the skills-based treatment part of what we're doing. Now we're able to basically get into working, producing something that's going to get us results. And so let me get to the right slide. So, all right. So like I said, we're not trying to focus on the meltdowns, but rather we're going to focus on the skills to replace the need to meltdown. So instead of focusing on the meltdowns, we just want to focus on what we can teach the child to do to replace the need to meltdown. So they're not going to need to do that anymore, because now they have these other skills of communication, acceptance, and cooperation. And so I'm going to go into each one of these individually here. So my goal at the start of any teaching, all the teaching I ever do, is really to meet the student or the child where he or she is at. What pro-social responses can they already make, and provide lots of fun and energy around those responses, because we want to really create motivation. And so we create motivation by having lots of fun and lots of energy around what they can currently do, instead of expecting so much for them to access fun and energy, access the things they want. Like, they already have things that they're doing. And so we need to identify those and up front build lots of motivation to want to be with us and be around us while we're teaching, because they see us as someone that's actually fun and energetic. So always providing that immediately as possible. So always providing the energy and the fun immediately, as quick as possible after we see pro-social behaviors. So once we've identified that, maybe the kid will smile at us sometimes. Maybe the kid will reach his hand out towards us sometimes. Maybe the child will XYZ. So what pro-social behaviors do they already have in their repertoire? And let's have lots of fun and energy around those up front, so we can get motivation for them to want to learn more from us. At first, every time the pro-social behavior occurs, we want to, in this instance, it's communication. We want to we want to reinforce it every time. So that'd be like every response gets access. But eventually, we want to make it more like real life, and not have it occur every time. Maybe occur more that's what intermittently means. It means not every time, but every so often they're going to get that energy and that fun from us, because I also believe that we're able to, you know, learn to congratulate and entertain ourselves when we do things that are helping us in life. And so learning to be happy with what we are doing is a very important skill to learn, I believe. And so this intermittent reinforcement, it's like, not that we shouldn't be showing them, you know, that they're doing something right, but by doing it every once in a while, they start to recognize when they're doing things are right. And then they end up getting some kind of like internal joy and peace and happiness from seeing themselves accomplish and do things that are easier for them, you know? So instead of melting down or tantruming or crying. So the next step past communication is acceptance. And so we like to use short, easy responses. And like I said, we're always trying to see what the child can already do so we can meet them where they're at. And so often I find it that a deep breath and saying, okay, you know, so it's like, all right, well, it's time to come to dinner, turn the TV off. The communication response might be, oh, can I have a little bit more time? Because instead of them like breaking down as soon as they're told that the TV has to go off, they ask for a little more time. Well, sometimes them asking for a little more time is going to get continued access to the TV, but sometimes it's going to be, they're going to have to accept the fact that, no, actually, you need to turn the TV off and come sit down. And so in those instances, instead of engaging in problem behavior or meltdowns or tantrums, we're going to teach them to take a deep breath and just say, okay, or something like I said, something that they can currently do. Because sometimes having to transition into something not as fun, it just is part of life. And sometimes we have to give up things that we currently have. So learning a pro-social response over melting down is what we're going to do here. And we teach this by using current motivation. And if it's something they are snacking on, then it's that. If it's a device that they're on, then it's that. If it's the Legos they're building with, then it's that. So while we're teaching this acceptance response, we're not expecting them to follow through the whole way here. We're trying to teach them how to accept. And what that means is, so if we say, no, yeah, you can't, we need the TV off so you can come to the table. If they take a deep breath and say, okay, then that's the response we're trying to get. So after that response, intermittently, we're going to say, oh, I love how you did that. You can keep watching TV a little bit. And so now we're using current motivation to build this class of responses. And by doing that, we're able to teach very, very effectively. And so when we're on this step, that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on them accepting and the acceptance response and what that looks like. It doesn't mean they have to follow through all the way at this point, because that's not where that step we're at yet. Now again, like I said, while we're teaching acceptance, we're providing continued access to what they were doing immediately and intermittently. So, and once we get into more intermittent access, that's when we start moving in to teaching cooperation. So, and this is obviously the moment we've all been waiting for: cooperation with the instructions and demands or things we ask our kids to do. And the key here is the shaping procedure. So we set approximations from the current cooperation level. So what they currently might be doing, which might just be like I said, just taking a deep breath and saying, okay, to the final cooperation level, which is actually complying with the request. So it might be, like I said, the first approximation might just be setting the device down at first. So like time to put your device away and come and do XYZ. They might just put it down and like, oh man, that was awesome. I love how you did that. You can play it a little longer. So like I said, we're using current motivation to build the pro-social skill that we're trying to teach it in that step. It might be, like I said, just putting the first Lego away. But like I said, as we provide once that goal approximation has been met, so now they're reliably setting the phone down or starting to put toys away, or they're starting the cooperation response, then we move to the next approximation. So and then that previous one no longer gets continued access. So now we're moving them along this flow of slowly building more appropriate cooperation. And so once we get like what we're finding is that once we get about 60 seconds of cooperation, they're over what they were doing, and now they're ready to move on to the next thing. And we surround that, like I said, with lots of energy and lots of fun, because we're really, and it's pretty easy as a parent that once we start seeing success, it's in us to provide lots of energy and provide lots of smiles and good jobs, and that's kind of what we want to see and what we want to do. So that's a good thing about this program is it's such a step-by-step procedure that we're able to provide lots of energy and lots of fun and lots of encouragement and lots of like I said, it needs to be fun. If it's not fun, then it's not going to maintain. So now we get into the teaching procedures. And so we want to identify times when we can provide our kids multiple learning opportunities through this process. So whatever step we're at, we might be at the communication step, we might be at the acceptance step, we might be at the cooperation step, or somewhere in between, or at different levels within each. But we want to identify times in the day when we can provide our kids multiple learning opportunities to learn each of these pro-social skills. And so that can be during after school free time, or before dinner, before bed, before chores. There's all these opportunities now where we can upfront start like 15 minutes early to provide the actual learning activities to the kids, and actually moving them through this, like I said, and providing lots of social reinforcement, social praise, and lots of energy around them learning these pro-social behaviors. And so, like I said, we're using errorless prompting, and we're using shaping differential reinforcement. Now, this is kind of where the coaching sessions really come in helpful, because the behavior analyst is the one going to be kind of teaching you how to use each of these things, and bringing it down into terms that, of what you're actually doing. They're not going to say, now run errorless prompting, no, they're going to be like, all right, so you're going to prompt them to say, okay, take a deep breath, and okay, right before you say no, like, all right, I'm gonna have to say no here, but can you remember, if you need to take a deep breath and say, okay, and then you say, no, time to come to the table and turn it off. And then they take a deep breath and say, okay. And all of a sudden, oh man, you did exactly what I asked for. I love how you did that. You can continue playing a little bit. So now we're actually using current motivation to teach that skill. Now, the next time you provide that prompt, it might become a little after. So now you're going to say, no, it's time to come to the table. You wait a couple of seconds, and if nothing happens, then you can provide the prompt. Like, all right, remember, you need to say, take a deep breath and say, okay, or whatever it is that the current target is for your child and what your child is able to do. But like I said, our goal during this time is really to set you up, always basically to set the parent up for success, or the caregiver up for success, because success leads to motivation. Motivation leads to us maintaining. We keep trying when we're motivated. So now I want to take a little time to talk about what the actual telehealth coaching sessions look like. So the actual time you're going to be on the computer talking with the behavior analyst. So what happens during these sessions? One is that we take a lot of time to celebrate success and progress. So like I said, we take data that allows us to see progress on a daily and weekly basis. And so we really want to take the time to celebrate that and really address, how we're making progress within the program. Then we take some time to review data and troubleshoot any collection gaps. So like I said, there's lots of ways to collect data that helps us make decisions in ABA. And so if the current process for collecting data is too much, or it's not providing the results we want, we try other things. So no one's stuck on, every response you see, you need to write it down, or we use technology for data collection, but So you can do it all from your phone. But like I said, it's not like we create a program that allows parents to be successful. That's really the key. And and then once we have the data, we can actually discuss progress. You know, we can see, look at this progress that the kid's making in XYZ things, and we can take what's helping that progress be made and start applying it to other areas that within the program. So we're also going to review video implementation. So we have videos of the actual procedures, the steps that are used to teach communication, acceptance, and cooperation. And we also ask sometimes for parents to take short videos while they're implementing the learning activities. And then we can watch those together, and parents can be like, oh, I saw this. I wasn't really sure what to do. And then you can discuss that with the BCBA, with the behavior analyst, and talk about solutions. You know, so we always want to get to the solutions that work for you. And so how do we coach the learning activities? Well, we coach them through behavior skills training, and that is the evidence-based procedure for helping people learn new skills. And it's made up of 4 parts, and they are instruction, modeling, practice, and praise. So during instruction, we might say a goal is that when asked to transition, Johnny will set his phone down and follow the instruction within 5 seconds with no interfering behavior. And our current step to reach that goal might be, we might be in the communication part of the program. And so when Johnny asks for more time after being told to transition with no interfering behavior or responses, the parent says, okay, you can have more time. So now, like I said, we're using current motivation to teach that pro-social behavior of communicating instead of engaging in problem behavior or meltdowns or tantrums. So like I said, that during the telehealth session, there's a parent learning activity, and this is provided by your coach, and it's during the telehealth session. And so this is the procedure that we're using to basically coach the parents on the program or on the learning activity that they're going to be running with their kid. So like I said, the student learning activity. And this learning activity is the one provided by the parent outside of telehealth sessions during those times that we've identified during the assessment. And so we want you to know each step back and forth. And so you're very confident in your ability to use the student learning activity. That's the goal. We always want to, like I said, we want to set parents up for success. That's our goal. We want parents to be successful. And we do that by making sure parents are very confident in their ability to run that step. So we don't try to teach the whole program at once. We do it step by step. And in those steps, we're teaching the kids are learning how to communicate, how to accept no, how to accept transitions, and how to cooperate with instructions or demands, or just asking, or just anything that we're asking our kids to do or be part of. So after the instruction comes the modeling. And during this time of your telehealth session, the therapist or the BCBA will be modeling skills either in vivo, so back and forth during the session, or sometimes via video. You get to watch the procedures being modeled or that step being modeled. And then the therapist, like I said, models the guardian or the parent models the student, or while we kind of practice back and forth. And we create scripted practices if necessary. And we also talk about ways to improve the way we're implementing a procedure or a learning activity. And so it's very much about communicating and everybody being on the same page and understanding and hoping, and like as learning, like I said, as the learning activity is modeled, prompts are delivered to bring parent focus on areas that might need extra attention, like the immediacy or the intermittent levels of reinforcement. And that's all done by the BCBA, and it's done. And like I said, we do it in ways that make it so that parents can be successful and feel very confident in their ability to run that step. And because, again, like I said, the steps are very small, and so it's not like you have to know the whole program, because at first we're just trying to teach the communication response to replace meltdowns or tantrums, and then we're trying to teach the acceptance response, and then we're trying to teach cooperation. So like I said, once you've seen video models and we've seen the behavior analyst model the learning activity, the student learning activity, then the guardian or the parent gets to practice the student learning activity. And so during that time, the BCBA then becomes the actor or tries to provide responses similar to the child's responses, and then you get to practice back and forth with whatever it is. If it's, like I said, asking for them to stop watching TV, playing, or being on a device, and transitioning into dinner or bedtime or chore time or homework time, going from a more preferred activity to a less preferred activity. We get to practice those situations, and you get to learn, so you're very confident at the things you need to say and do. And then you get to use them, and you get to see how successful this program actually is, because the kids now start asking for more time, and then they're saying okay and taking a deep breath, and then they're cooperating with us, and then we're building lots of energy and fun and reinforcement around those three things. And because it's intermittent, they actually don't know when the actual continued access is going to occur, and it's that intermittent access that they get through the flow. So they don't know when it's coming. So it's like, all right, can I have some more time? No, not right now. You can't have more time. Okay. All right. Well, you need now come to the table. And then I start walking to the table, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, great job. You can have a little more time now, So wherever you as a parent working with a behavior analyst know when you're going to be delivering the continued access or not, and the student doesn't. And so that really helps with the learning and them engaging in the appropriate pro-social responses. And then we're really strengthening those responses and building those responses through continued access. And then praise. I think this is obviously one of the most important parts of the program, is that we're reviewing performance and progress, and we're reviewing our goals, and we're celebrating. We're celebrating the smallest types of progress, the smallest goal. Every goal is important. Every time we attain a goal, whether it's a step goal or it's a final goal, it's like we are celebrating that, and we are understanding that that's a huge accomplishment for everybody involved, especially the parent or the guardian, because these are things that we've been dealing with for a long time, but that we get to see success, very rapidly. And that's kind of that's my favorite part about this, is that every family I work with, it's like there's always lots of hesitation, and then they start using it, and then like literally usually within 3 to 5 sessions, they're starting to see a huge reduction in the amount of problem behavior or tantrums and meltdowns. They're seeing a huge increase in the communication response, and then they're ready, and it really opens the doors for learning how to accept and how to cooperate, because we get to move past the focus on problem behavior and move into our focus on things that are going to help everybody attain the goals that we're trying to reach. And man, I flew through those slides, but that is the program. And I would like to talk a little bit more about individualized things that everybody might be working with or dealing with. If there's any questions on that side of things, but beyond that, if there's no question, I guess open the door for questions. If not, then I can talk a little bit more about the other side of how we access this.
Yeah, for sure. So one question did come in, Jordan. Do you have experience with preteens or teens?
Yes, I do. Yeah. So when I was in Colorado, I worked with 3 high schoolers, and then within Autism Centers of Michigan, we had a large population of middle school and high school kids that I was always consulting with. I always liked being part of everybody's treatment that I was overseeing, and so understanding what's going on, meeting with the parents, and providing help with programming and an analysis of the results, is something I've always been part of. So I've had a great time working with kids. And one of my favorite stories actually was when I was in Colorado working with a kid that was getting bullied. And I basically showed, he didn't understand that ignoring them would be the solution. He always wanted to come back with what he thought or what he, or get upset about it. And we practiced how to ignore. And I remember like clear as day that I came to my next session and he's jumping around. He's like, they stopped bullying me. He's like, I did exactly what you taught me to do. He's like, I just kept my eyes straight, ignored them, walked past them, didn't say anything. He's like, and after a few days, he's like, they just stopped. He was just so happy. So it was like, so yeah, I love working with the whole spectrum and all ages. And so I think it's cool to help everybody reach their goals.
And then Jordan, also, it's something that we have seen lots and lots of calls and families contacting our navigators with concerns, specifically around oftentimes preteens or teens who are, really struggling with some aggressive behavior or self-interest behavior. Are these the sort of the telehealth model that you mentioned and talked about and some of these strategies? Is that something that, can be helpful for parents whose kids are sort of evidencing those types of behaviors?
Yeah. So I think that's a huge plus with what we're doing. Like I said, because we're able to identify some of the pro-social behaviors that they might already have in their repertoire and start meeting the kids where they're at and replacing the need to engage in extreme problem behavior or self-injury or injuring others or property destruction. We just get rid of the need to do that right away by having them be able to access the things they want with a short, easy, something that they can already do that's pro-social. And so we take the time to really strengthen that response, that communication response, so we can eliminate the need to engage in some of these more severe problem behaviors. And then we slowly transition using shaping into acceptance and cooperation. So once we get a strong repertoire of communication, like I said it before, it really opens the doors to be able to teach acceptance and cooperation.
Okay, great, thanks. Do you, again, if anybody has any questions, last call, go ahead and throw them in the chat or in the Q&A. But Jordan, if you want to kind of talk about maybe how folks can access you and what type of insurance you take or how that works, that would be helpful too.
Yeah, definitely. So at HedgeHog Health, the number one thing right now would be to go to our website, which is hedgehoghealth.com. HedgeHoghealth. So HedgeHog Health. I should have put a slide with that, but I didn't think that my goal here wasn't really to promote us as much as just trying to help parents understand that there's a parent coaching solution out there that's focused on them and understands how important they are within their child's treatment package. But yeah, so going to our website, you can connect with us and schedule a call with me to start talking about next steps and moving into that side of things. Like I said, so a lot of the things that we're doing like within our telehealth packages is identifying the different scenarios where are triggering the meltdowns. And so often it's, like I said, transitioning from more preferred to less preferred environments. So I have kids that we're working with that they just love being on their devices. And so anytime that there's a hint that they're going to have to move from their device to something else, it's like everything starts pouring out, but we're able to quickly replace that with a form of communication, whether it's asking whether it's eye contact. Some kids are nonverbal. We work with nonverbal kids, and we use, like I said, we meet them where they're at and try to identify their current communications, ways they communicate, and so sometimes it's, if a kid is likes to points or likes to grab adults' hands and lead, we accept that. We're using that right now we'll use those responses to replace it, to replace the problem behavior or the tantruming or the whatever it is. And then from there, like I said, we open the doors to teaching the acceptance and communication responses, and then get really building on that, because then, like I said, I think it also opens the doors for teaching more other skills, whether it's being able to ask for things or be able to label things or be able to talk about our day or different, all those other things that come into play within life. We're able to move into teaching those skills much more readily and much more easily once we're able to show them that they can just communicate to get their needs met, rather than engage in these other type forms of meltdowns or tantrums or problem behavior.
So we have a couple other questions that came in. What type of insurance is accepted?
So in Michigan, we are contracted with multiple CMHs, and so we're able to also, because we are contracted with them, we're also able to access single case agreements for counties that we might not be contracted with for the Medicaid benefit. So Medicaid is one, and then we also are in network with Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Blue Care Network, Beacon Health, Aetna, all the major insurers we are in network with. And if we're not, we are currently in the process of working through that. And a lot of times, sometimes with insurance companies like Priority Health, it took us to have a client that needed our services to get them to actually say, all right, we'll contract with you. So sometimes we just need that foot in the door, and then we're able to get a single case agreement and then move that into in-network status. And so we work with a lot of like many insurance companies. And another thing I didn't even realize up front though was that a lot of this is based on research that shows, like there's recent research that shows that a parent training model can study with 22 kids, 11 receiving center-based training, 11 receiving parent-based training. All 22, were able to make it through education similarly. So there was no difference they found no difference between the parent training model versus the center-based model in this instance. And so I think that we're able to provide a method that can help our kids reach results and reach outcomes that might not have been possible before, because maybe the kid, because centers sometimes shut down if COVID goes up, and there's lots of reasons why I think there's such a huge benefit to really focusing on helping parents.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So another question came in. Actually, it's kind of a few questions. How many sessions do parents or caregivers typically sort of need or get? And then kind of assuming that, is it based on the number of problem behaviors? And then she also commented, it sounds like each problem behavior is focused on and then broken down and addressed individually.
Yeah, so like I said, so during the assessment, and the interview and then the analysis is usually 2 sessions, and then we're able to develop the skills-based treatment, and then the coaching kind of starts. During that time, we're able to really identify the classes of problem behavior. So a lot of times, multiple topographies or multiple things that are happening are actually all part of the same functional class that was identified in the ISCA. And so now we can identify, now the skills-based treatment steps, or the steps that teach communication, acceptance, and cooperation, can be the same across all those topographies or all those different types of things that we're seeing. And so So that's one part of it, is that we're able to address that right up front. And so up front, it depends on kind of the what's going on with the child, how intense, how often behavior is occurring. At some families, we find that 2 sessions a week up front, and then we fade them back as we start to see success. And or typically, like I said, typically it's 1 session, at least 1 session a week. And then once it's piloted, then even that can be drawn back. But as our kids grow up, and having 6 kids, at all different stages in life, we find that each stage of life presents its own problems and issues, and things that can basically, that we need to learn from. And so as our kids enter new stages of life, the program can become more intense or less intense as far as the number of sessions, depending on the needs. It's all based on the needs and the wants and the progress that we're making. And so I don't like to say, oh, you have to do this XYZ, because if things are going really well, then we can do less sessions. But if things are at a point where we really need to have intense intervention, then we can have more sessions. And so I really like to let the results and the outcomes and the data kind of guide our decisions. But typically it's 2 sessions for assessment, and then basically once a week at least. And I'll also put our website into the chat right now, so anybody that wants to access it can. So I realized that wasn't on my slide, but there it is in the chat now, so anybody can go to our website and learn more about what we're doing, and how we're partnering with pediatricians, and how we're partnering with schools, and how we're partnering with everybody to try to create a comprehensive treatment and program for families that we're working with.
So here's another good one that came in, Jordan. How do I get my community mental health department on board to provide this service to me?
So we are in a provider of choice state, and now that doesn't always mean you get what you ask for, but it does mean that you can request it. So requesting services from HedgeHog Health from your case manager is often the first step. That's one thing that I like to work with families through as well. So if you go to our website and schedule a Q&A session, that would actually be with me, and we'd be able to talk through that individually, and I'd be able to kind of let you know what that process looks like, and also let you know the best way to try to I guess convince CMHs that might be hesitant to reach out to other providers that if we're not currently in their network. So I think the best thing at this point would be to go to our website and schedule a Q&A with me to talk through it.
And another question came in. Is this service the same as family training?
So I talked a little bit about kind of how I feel like we're different from the typical family training programs that are out there, because like having Autism Centers of Michigan and working closely with lots of providers, I found that most programs are really trying to train the parent on the center's treatment plan, or like the goals that the center has. And I'm not saying that's not appropriate, and I think that might have a place in some instances, but what I have found is that the parents are dealing with something totally different than the learning requirements that are happening in centers and home-based programs delivered by behavior technicians. And so there might be similars and things that are overlap a little bit, but I also believe that what we're doing is different as well. So like we are a newer company, so we're actually building out a better outcomes platform currently that's going to really help connect teachers, pediatricians, providers to all be on the same page about what's going on in our families and child's lives. And so that like so that when the teacher all of a sudden makes some awesome progress, everybody is aware of that and can now incorporate that into what they're doing with the child. And so we really want to connect parents, providers, pediatricians, and our partners in schools. And so I think that as we launch the Better Outcomes platform, is really gonna be an awesome thing for everybody involved. And especially, like I said, the goal always comes back to the child and reaching outcomes that help them be more independent, make friends, and have lots of fun.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing that you mentioned is the kind of coordination of care in terms of what's working and what isn't working amongst, multiple therapists or educators or providers in different, types of settings. I think that's a huge advantage for sure. And then another question that came in, Jordan, are all of your services delivered virtually?
So right now, so telehealth based parent coaching is the service that we provide. But we also, like I said, when we work with our parents, we have two sides where one is we're providing that, but we also are helping the parent, as far as being an expert advisor to the parent to help access direct services for the kids. And we have a huge index of programs, and we help connect parents with local programs and local, ABA programs or speech therapists or occupational therapists. And we index them by wait list, and we index them by specialty, because I think it's very, very important that if your child is dealing with elopement, meaning they kind of run away, or like pica, meaning they put inedible objects in their mouth and swallow them, that the program they're in or the BCBA they're working with at their autism program has expertise in those major things that are happening in with our children. And so that's one thing we do too, is we're also, not only are we providing the parent coaching side of things to help get evidence-based treatment and helping get success right away. So because like a lot of times there's also a huge wait list for center-based services, and so we're able to work with parents today, and so like I said, on both sides. So we provide immediate access to coaching for the parent, but we also become an expert advisor in helping with placement into local programs for the kids.
Great, thanks. Another question that came in, what type of tools or what strategies have you found to be effective in terms of communicating and keeping sort of all of the, team members, whether that be pediatricians or teachers, other therapists, kind of up to date on what's working and what isn't working? Are there any specific strategies that you use, or any other kinds of like tech tools or apps or anything that you have found helpful?
Yeah, honestly, that's why we're creating the Better Outcomes platform, is because I just haven't been part of anything or seen anything that really does it on a level that that works. Like, yeah, we can create email streams and everybody kind of chats and sees what everybody else is saying, or we can have IEP meetings where everybody comes together and talks about what they're doing. But often those don't produce actual change in what the individual people are doing in the team. So what the parent is doing, what the provider is doing, what the teacher or educational system is doing doesn't often get affected by those things. And so I haven't seen anything out there that is able to provide coordinated care in a way that produces change in the way people are doing things. And so that's why we're building this Better Outcomes platform, so that we can actually create something that creates collaboration and change, and so that everybody can be on the same page. So I wish I had a better answer than that. I wish there was something right now that was out there that could do that. But beyond meetings and email streams or text streams, I haven't seen anything else.
Anybody else? Any other? Oh, looks like there might have been another one that came in here. Let's see. What would you suggest for building social skills for those on the spectrum, since many opportunities have been limited due to COVID-19? Even ABA centers are doing less socializing or group activities.
Yeah, that's where I think we try to build like like learning activities around teaching social skills and when they're needed. And the best we can do at this point a lot of times is we create the learning activity, we train the parent on it, and then the parent either there's role play with the parent, or the parent invites close friends over, and then they're able to kind of facilitate the teaching of those skills through the learning activity that they learned, or we're trained on or coached on. And so like I said, the opportunities have gone way down. So I think the role playing model is kind of like would be the best approach at this point, when we can't enter those scenarios as often as we would like to be able to help kids learn these skills. And so creating role playing scenarios where everybody, and then making it fun and energetic, and everybody knows what's going on up front. Then we can just teach the skills, and then they have, at least we know they have the skill. And then whether it's occurring in typical situations, then we can look at what's happening in those situations, and tailor our role playing activities to make them more and more effective at helping the skills generalize beyond role playing.
Another one came in. Do you have any favorite tablet-based games for building social skills or independence skills?
I don't necessarily have any off the top of my head. There's so many different programs out there. The question is, are they helping the kids learn to do those things within the app, or the tablet, or are they actually helping the kids generalize it out into real life? I haven't seen much data on that part of programming, but I don't actually have anything off the top of my head that I would recommend for building those things. I know that Dr. Scott Bellini has a program. He has a social skills book that has lots of different things that do activities and games that can be created and used within families' homes or within schools or programmings. I can't remember what the name of the book is right now off the top of my head, but it's Dr. Scott Bellini. So if you look up his name, you'd probably be able to find his book. So yeah, I think his book. It's called Building Social Relationships. I really believe his book. He does a good job at helping create programs around social skills for kids. Great. Well, thank you so much for everybody for joining me today and listening. And hopefully I was able to show you something, or teach you something, or get you interested in what we're doing here at HedgeHog Health.
Alrighty. So I think we are all set then. Thanks so much, Jordan. I really appreciate it. And again, if anybody wants to reach out to Jordan, you have his information, and also feel free to reach out to a navigator as well. If you have any additional challenges or questions, or need some help getting connected to resources. So again, thanks to all of you for joining us today. Hope you guys had a great day. And Jordan, thanks for joining us as well. We appreciate it. And everybody enjoy the rest of the afternoon and have a great weekend.